I would like to give a special thanks to Miss Calder, Mr. Morrow, Mr. Spence, Mr. Byron, Mr. Pearmain, Gray, Tathali, Jonathan, and everyone else who has helped me on this project. Thank you. When I was in my Planning 10 class, we had to come up with a project to improve people's lives in our community, and we had to present it to our class along with a budget and timeline. The project that my friend Paul and I created was a mason bee house for our school. Our school has a wonderful garden run by Fresh Fruits, and mason bees would be an amazing way to promote sustainability in the community as well as to pollinate the garden. I also have a really big interest in biology, and a project like this seems like a really good way to experience hands-on biology work. Ever since then, this has been something I've wanted to do. Last year in grade 11, I tried to make it work, although the project ended up falling apart. And now in grade 12, I have chosen to make it my capstone project. Now before I go on with the rest of the project, here are some fun and not so fun facts about bees. It is no secret that due to human activities such as habitat destruction, the use of pesticides, and introduction of competing species and climate change, that global bee populations are on the decline. See slide 3 of my grade 10 PowerPoint. Bees and other pollinators are very important to us, as much of the food we produce relies on them to reproduce efficiently. Now most of the research done on bee populations is for honeybees. However, for my project I chose to nest nason bees, which are a solitary species of bee native to North America. They earn their name from the fact they don't construct their own homes, but rather find small holes to lay their eggs in, and then they seal them up with wax. Because of this, it makes them much easier to take care of, because all you have to do is place their cocoons outside for the spring, and then after the season, you take the new cocoons back inside, and you keep them safe in the fridge throughout the winter. This is to ensure that the cocoons aren't destroyed by the cruel forces of nature and other insects. Although they don't make honey, mason bees are excellent pollinators and are more efficient than honeybees when it comes to their job as pollinators. These little guys are quite docile, and only the female bees have stingers, and they will only sting if they are squashed or trapped. And if you weren't convinced, they're also blue. Yep, they're blue. So here are the pros and cons of mason bees over honeybees. Pros. They're a native species. They're very good pollinators. They're very friendly. They're easy to take care of. And they're blue. Cons? They don't make honey, I guess? Not really a con for me, since that involves more work. The first step was to see if a project like this would even be allowed on school grounds. So after talking with Vice Principal Mr. Spence, he gave me permission to go ahead. I then contacted Fresh Fruits, as I would be putting these bees in their garden, and they were delighted with the idea. Second step was research, finding out how to take care of bees and what needed to be done in order to house them properly. Through my research, I found some good information to guide the design of the house and future decisions. 1. The house should be about 6 to 7 feet above the ground and facing east for the morning light. 2. The holes in which the bees live should have a diameter of 5/16 to 3/8 of an inch, and be around 6 inches long and capped off at the end. 3. The house should be in a location where the bees can access mud, clay, and obviously flowers. 4. The wood used to build the house should not have recently been treated with a solvent-based wood preservative. With all those in mind, I set out to do the third step, designing a house. In grade 10, the house I thought I would use was a simple one to create, illustrated in this diagram here, using 5/16 inch dowels to roll sheets of folded paper into tubes. You then bundle 19 of those tubes together to form a hexagon. You then wrap the hexagon in toilet paper so that it fits snugly inside a 1-liter milk carton. While this is a great way to construct mason bee homes on the cheap, this method requires you to recreate the tubes every year as they're destroyed in the process of removing the cocoons. I wanted a more permanent housing system, and this is the one I designed. The house features removable trays with half cylinders on each side of these trays, so that when stacked together, they form an entire tube. The trays are then stored in this box to shelter the bees from the elements, and the cocoons can be easily removed by pulling out the trays after the season ends. Thankfully, my friend, woodworker, and all-around good person, Jonathan, said he would build the house, so I sent him the designs. At first I was planning on paying for the project using money from the Sustainability Club, as this is definitely a sustainability project, although my friend and co-president Samantha notified me of a VSB grant for projects focused on sustainability. I applied for the grant, and luckily I received it, along with other good news. The person who let me know that I had gotten a grant also notified me on some VSB policies on mason bees, and that they had to be at least 50 meters away from the building. So it was time for the next part, figuring out where to put the bee house. I had a general idea in that I wanted it in the garden, but I had to pick an exact location. So Miss Calder set me up with the head of VSB Grounds, Mr. Pearmain, and Gray from Fresh Roots, and together we decided on a location. Then I bought $80 worth of bees, and after keeping the cocoon safe in my fridge, the house had been finished, and I was planning on mounting it after we got back from spring break. Then the pandemic struck. When it was announced physical schooling would be suspended until further notice, I was very worried that I would have to reconstruct a new bee house from scratch. Thankfully, Miss Calder, in an act of Deus Ex Machina, saved me dropping off the bee house at my house. My dad and I then constructed a wedge so that the bee house could stay level as the mounting site was slanted, and we were finally prepared. So when the big day came, my dad and I arrived at the school garden with the sound of bees in our hearts and power tools in our hands. We then realized a couple things. One, turns out I don't know how to use a protractor, and I got the angle of the roof off by about 5 degrees, so the house was facing down slightly. It was not a practical issue, but a visual one for sure. 2, we were unable to pull enough power from the car to effectively power our corded drill. Oops, we probably should have tested that earlier. With our humiliating defeat, we return home, more hopeful than ever to complete the project. My dad, fixed the angular issue, and once again Jonathan came to my rescue, letting me borrow his cordless electric drill. And this was all done while maintaining proper physical distancing. With these issues behind us, on the morning of April 12th, we finally completed the mounting of the bee house. Also, Jonathan's drill was very nice. Now, the mason bees originally came in these little blue tubes with instructions to leave them near the house, but I had another idea. As a more discreet method of release, I put the cocoons into a chocolate box with holes cut into it and placed it in the small gap between the trays and the top of the roof of the house, so they were a little more hidden. And I've been going down to the school every so often now and again to check on the bees, and now they've all finally emerged, and it's really fun to see them fly around. Also, they're blue, and that's just really cool to see blue bees. Like, blue bees, come on. Pretty cool. Though the bees are released, the project is not over. Fresh Roots has graciously volunteered to take care of the mason bee cocoons during the off-season, and I still need to send Gray the instructions for their proper care. This has been a very exciting journey, from start to finish, and I've definitely grown from it. Aside from learning more about bees, the biggest skill I have developed is communication. Through the entire process, I have been reaching out to other people for their support on this project. When I first started, I did not think it would result in me being part of an email chain with the principal, vice principal, and members of both Fresh Roots and VSB Grounds. This has taught me a lot about leadership, organization, and the bureaucratic process. I will be able to apply the knowledge that I've learned from the Mason Bee Project in my future studies in biology. The process of introducing mason bees into my school's garden has strengthened my interest in studying how animals interact with their environments. I would like to continue doing work such as this, and a career in biology seems like a perfect fit to apply my knowledge. I really hope the mason bees can be part of our school's garden for years to come. Alright, thank you for watching, and thank you to everyone who helped me out on this project.